And we are live. Hello, everyone. This is My Two Cents. Welcome to the second Patrons Monthly Hangout that I host here on my channel. Just a time where all those that support my channel can come hang out and discuss whatever's on their minds. Unfortunately, I've been having a lot of trouble finding a time that all of us can stream together. So right now, I'm only joined by Nate the Volunteerist. Night Shift 10,000 might show up in a little while. We'll see if it's just me and Nate, then so be it. We'll discuss. We'll let the stream go for a while and just talk about whatever comes up. Now, to get things started, there is. I know I haven't done a 2-day with 2 cents lately. Again, haven't had a lot of time and had trouble finding time that everyone can stream. But this is something that just came up in my news feed that I thought was worth discussing. Amazon, the organization owned by Jeff Bezos, has just released what they call a position, Our Positions. It's a paper that releases the company's stances on 11 different policy issues in America. The first of which, it says, addresses the issue of minimum wage. And the section states that the federal minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009. And it declares, quote, raising the minimum wage would have a profound impact on the lives of tens of millions of individuals and families across the nation and help address growing income inequality. Now, this makes me really sad to have to say this, because on one hand, Jeff Bezos and Amazon are a picture of how the free market can work, at least initially, in as much as Jeff Bezos started Amazon in a garage with a wood burning stove, and he took the company from there and turned it into an organization that has significantly improved the lives of many people. And it's because it's so convenient that a lot of people use Amazon. However, like so many entrepreneurs, despite the fact that it was the free market that initially made his company great, he has sold out, become a corporatist, and is now actively working alongside government to put regulations in place that benefit his organization at the expense of others. And telling crackpot stories about how the minimum wage will improve the standard of living for everyone, something anyone who studied economics knows to be a lie, but it will, of course, benefit large organizations like his, where he can afford to pay a higher minimum wage, but a lot of startups can't. So, very unfortunate. Night Shift, thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys.
What's going on?
Hey. Oh, not much. What's going on here?
Well, we just got started. I just got done explaining, was reading from a news article that talked about how Amazon has released a paper called Our Positions, in which the company lays out their positions on at least 11 different policy/social issues, the first of which was minimum wage. And to summarize it, I was just saying it breaks my heart, because Amazon, on one hand, I have used it as an example of how the free market can work, in that Jeff Bezos started Amazon in a garage with a wood-burning stove, and because his organization actually made people's lives better, it grew. But now he has, of course, sold out and has become a corporatist like so many large corporations, and is now lobbying for regulations that hurt other businesses and force competition out.
That figures.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. JC Armitage, hello. Manny K-Built, hello. Thanks for joining the stream. All right, I guess that's the thing I wanted to start with, but it is the patron stream, so if y'all have anything you wanted to talk about, by all means, bring it up. Otherwise, I got plenty of things that we can.
I mean, what's next? Do they believe that the wage gap exists?
Probably.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. You know what? I'll actually look on this or see if it actually links to the positions paper. We'll go through. Okay, yeah, here's a link to the paper. It's on aboutamazon.com. Okay, so point number 1, it says the federal minimum wage in the U.S. is too low and should be raised. We've gone through that. Point number 2, human-induced climate change is real, serious, and action is needed from the public and private sectors. Lovely. So, of course, the overwhelming majority of climate scientists agree that human activities are contributing to climate warming trends over the past century, and most leading scientific organizations worldwide have issued public statements endorsing this position. We agree and have created the Climate Pledge, a commitment to reach the Paris Agreement 10 years early. We are innovating and investing in a net zero carbon by 2040 and run on 100% renewable energy by 2030. We are purchasing 100% fully electric delivery vehicles. Okay, incidentally, fully electric delivery vehicles, how do they get their electricity? Probably through burning coal. So in reality, for all the people who are for fully electric vehicles, they never ask the question, where does the electricity come from? Right now, electricity comes from burning fossil fuels. So they don't actually reduce any carbon emissions. The largest ever... Our sustainability website provides comprehensive reporting on our carbon footprint and progress on commitments. Yeah, my video last week was about Greta Thunberg, so I think everyone knows where I stand on this, but if y'all have any thoughts...
Who?
Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old girl who spoke before the United Nations.
Who the fuck is Greta Thunberg?
Did you watch my video last week?
No, that's my Ozzy Osbourne throwback. Where he was like, he was like, who the fuck is Justin Bieber?
Oh, okay. Well, that was very convincing because I thought you were being serious.
Yeah, right.
That's part of the joke. That's part of the joke.
Excellent. But yeah, mysteriously, people who are against climate change are always seem to be against nuclear power too, even though that's probably the most viable option we have.
Zero CO2 from that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not only are people like, Greta Thunberg, despite the fact that she's just a 16-year-old girl, is emblematic of most climate change freaks, because not everyone who talks about climate change demonstrates very quickly they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't know what the scientists are actually saying. No one is saying the planet is about to end in 12 years. All they're saying is that if what the alleged consensus was from the United Nations, and again, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not qualified to assess it, but they're saying that if the temperature rises another 2 degrees over the next 12 years, they think there's a lot less that'll be able to do, could be done to reverse the trend. Not that the entire planet's going to go extinct, but still, all the solutions anyone's proposing don't actually reduce carbon emissions. Electric cars, great. Where do you get the electricity from? From burning fossil fuels like coal or gasoline. Solar and wind power, not nearly efficient enough to produce the amounts of electricity needed, and further, it takes massive carbon emissions to actually build those things. I know the bullet train that they're planning on building in California. Reason Magazine published an article where they did the math, and that train would have to operate at maximum efficiency for something like 77 years before it actually made up for all the carbon emissions that it would take to build it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Plus on another end for the electric cars and the electric vehicles, those usually use like lithium batteries. And have you seen lithium mining operations? They're essentially highly destructive pit mining operations that go on, as opposed to oil mining, which is really clean and doesn't really damage the earth much at all. So I mean, on the other hand, you have that.
JC Armitage says, if a climate cultist rejects nuclear energy, you can dismiss anything they say at that point. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Nick's point on Amazon's paper: the energy industry should have access to the same technologies as other industries. We will continue to provide cloud services to companies in the energy industry to make their legacy businesses less carbon intensive and help them accelerate development of renewable energy business. We support sustainability programs for our own business and work with partners to reduce their demand for carbon fuel sources. Yeah, that, in other words, they're saying we support regulations that are going to put smaller businesses who can't afford to do this out of business. Next point: diversity and inclusion are good for business and more fundamentally simply right. Customers represent a wide array of genders, races, ethnicities, sexual orientations, military status, backgrounds, political views. It is critical that Amazon employees are also diverse and that we foster a culture where inclusion is the norm.
Sure.
Watch Eric July's video, fuck diversity or something. He literally says diversity is not even compatible with freedom.
Well, the thing is, there's nothing inherently good. Diversity is neither good or bad. If you want your organization to be successful, you ought to be hiring the most qualified individual, regardless if those are men or women, white or black, or whatever else.
Exactly.
And if customers aren't happy with how diverse your company is, they are free to shop elsewhere. I seriously doubt that those that are shopping at Amazon are really concerned about the fact that the employees are very, very diverse. They just want their product shipped to their house quickly after they order it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing diversity by, it's just the qualified, the most qualified. That's fine though. If you're just hiring people simply because of their race or because of their gender or a host of others, then we're gonna have issues basically.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh! Before you continue, somebody you gotta check the live chat. Someone has something to say about me.
Yes, Cody Florette has a comment here. Nate, I'll let you address that one.
All I can say is I was influenced. It's basically I'm a mix of an influence of a couple of former friends. So that's all I have to say.
Nice.
All right, next point on Amazon's are positions. The rights of LGBTQ plus people must be protected. We were early and strong supporters of marriage equality and will continue to advocate for protections and equal rights for transgender people. We stand together with the LGBTQ community and they just said LGBTQ there the second time, not plus. Community and are working at the U.S. federal and state level on legislation, including supporting passage of the Equality Act. Amazon provides gender transition benefits based on the standards of care published by the World Professional Association on Transgender Health. We received a perfect score on the Human Rights Campaign Foundation's Corporate Equality Index for the last 3 years. Okay, at this point, I've talked about this before. Marriage ought to be a private matter between individuals. But what's ridiculous at this point to try and claim that LGBTQ XYZ, whatever they want to call it, don't have equal rights. At this point, if you claim you're LGBTQ plus XYZ, whatever, you're basically legally immune from anything. Yet, as we saw in the CNN town hall that took place earlier this week, Democrats like Beto O'Rourke and Cory Booker are advocating that private religious institutions should be shut down because if they refuse to perform same-sex wedding ceremonies or support transgenderism or whatever it may be.
Luckily, I've seen several tweets from people in the LGBT community saying that that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, actually coming from the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, they're also they're like saying I'm a gay Republican or I'm gay and I think this is ridiculous. And then they explain why.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're getting hammered.
Well, the if they want equal rights, then they have the right to live their life as they see fit and to do business with those people that they see fit. If other private individuals and institutions don't want to associate with them, they are not under obligation to. If you go to a flower shop and want to buy flowers for your gay wedding and the person says, I'm sorry, I don't support gay marriages, you do what any other rational person does and walk down the street to a different flower shop that is willing to do so. And if you feel so compelled, you send messages to your friends and say, boycott. I don't like that organization doesn't support gay marriages. Boycott them. And if you successfully convince enough people to do so, they go out of business. But when you have to actually advocate that the government come in and deprive other people of their rights so that you can feel better about yourself, makes me wonder how confident you are in your identity and your behaviors.
And the one thing I also want to point out is equality and freedom cannot coexist. I remember a video Hoodie Demon did long ago when he started here on YouTube, where he explains how equality is synonymous with fascism. When it's being forced, there's no freedom. However, if there is freedom, chances are equality will come along voluntarily.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you
and
try
you know,
to, well, I'm just going to say, if you try to force it onto other people, chances are they're not going to be interested.
and then, and you have to discuss further what is meant by equality, because there's also equality of opportunity versus equality of outcome. And I would argue equality in and of itself is not even a virtue. People are not equal. Just and I forget where I heard this analogy, but someone said dogs are not equal. A beagle will never win a fight with a wolf, but a wolf will never dive down a hedgehog's hole and bring it back to you. The point being, there are different breeds of dogs, some big, some small, and some are useful for hunting certain kinds of things, and others are useful for hunting other kinds of things. They're not equal in that they are different, but they're better at different things because of given the nature of what they are. And people are the same way. Not everyone is cut out to be a professional basketball player, but there is no person is legally barred from trying out to be a professional basketball player. But not everyone can be. Some people are cut out to be information technology specialists. Some people aren't. People are not equal. Find out what you're good at and excel at it.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
What everyone has the same rights. Everyone ought to have equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. And even equality of opportunity gets fuzzy because, again, some people have particular talents that other people don't, and so the opportunity, they don't necessarily have exactly the same opportunities. But
let me just say this: I know you feminists would love to see the genders being equal on. Pretty much we are the same thing, but it's impossible. Men and women are different. We should be celebrating our differences rather than just saying, "Well, I don't know why we're not the same. We're this." Men and women think differently. We function differently. We excel at different things. Yeah, you get my point.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they really believed that, they wouldn't. And if it were really true, you wouldn't need government to come in and fix it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think we've hammered that point pretty hard. We strongly support the right of immigrants and immigration reform. Amazon believes the U.S. should welcome the best and brightest talent from around the world. It's imperative for our country's competitiveness. Amazon has more than 300,000 employees in the U.S. from all backgrounds who are dedicated to inventing on behalf of and serving our customers. We support and lobby for immigration reform, including legal pathway to citizenship for Dreamers and reforms to the green card and high-skilled visa programs, as well as actively participating in legal challenges to the travel ban. Well, again, this is something we've talked about on my channel quite a bit before. I absolutely support open immigration. Government has no business pointing guns at people and telling them where they can and can't move, assuming that where they're moving to, they intend to purchase property, obtain jobs, contribute to the economy, and interact voluntarily with others. The problem is we are dealing with a situation where we have basically state-sponsored immigration where politicians are promising people tons of free stuff if they just come here and vote to give the state more power. So no, I do not support open immigration so long as it's state-sponsored immigration.
I mean, my position, I taken this position along with Pluto, and that is, we reject this whole closed borders versus open borders. We say it's either government borders or private borders. Pick one.
Right.
Exactly.
Because we shouldn't be asking the question, should the government close the borders or should they open the borders? Because that's a false dichotomy. Mm-hmm. If you want to build a wall around your own private property, so be it. As long as you're not interfering with someone else's private property, because that's
or you and your neighbors, if you and your neighbors on their privately owned land collectively decide to build a wall around your all collectively privately owned property, you're free to do that.
Yeah, it's my house. I paid for whatever is being built, so I'm not being forced into it, and I'm not forcing other people like government borders do.
Yes. And there's also, as in my video, open borders, market borders, and border security. talked about how market borders are essentially just that. If there aren't jobs available where people want to move to, well, I guess that doesn't make sense. If there aren't jobs available in a given region, people aren't going to move there. If under free market conditions, people naturally move to the places where employers want to hire and where it's most beneficial for everyone for them to do so.
And the thing is, I keep hearing this all the time. You cannot have open borders and a welfare state at the same time. I agree.
Yeah, you can't.
Let's get rid of the welfare states.
Exactly.
Yeah. And of course, there are, I also hear people like AOC advocating the abolition of ICE, though she doesn't support it, by the way. She's been voting to fund it, so don't believe her. But anyways.
What? A politician not living up to what they say? Can't be.
Surprise, surprise.
Stop presses.
So they would rather get rid of it's almost like they're the abolition of ICE is the first thing they would want to do, and I'm like, well, there are a few things I would do before getting to that part.
Mm-hmm.
Such as getting rid of welfare.
Exactly. I've said, logically speaking, so border controls are unethical. The welfare state is unethical. Since both these things are unethical, assuming we can only put an end to one, which do you put an end to first? You have to put an end to the welfare state before you put an end to border security. So I'd say both of them need to be put an end to, but if you're only going to put an end to one, you got to put an end to the welfare state first.
There you go.
Moving on. Next point. Governments at all levels, federal, state, and local, should have access to the best technology. Harnessing the capabilities of advanced technology such as the cloud and machine learning are important to the ongoing safety and security of the country. We will continue to provide U.S. government and law enforcement agencies with access to the most advanced technology.
Oh, gosh. And we get 1984 immediately.
Well, what's funny about that statement is that by definition, government can't have access to the best technology because the best technology is produced at the private level. Then government bureaucrats argue for long amounts of time about which model they're actually going to adopt. And by the time government actually selects a piece of technology to go with, 3 generations newer technology has already been created.
I will admit, I liked the. I would rather go by what the anarcho-transhumanists are advocating for through technology.
Yeah,
because they're advocating for the abolition of the state through the use of technology. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that sounds a bit right. That sounds about right there. They want to abolish the state through people being able to augment themselves voluntarily and basically kind of universalizing blockchain, universalizing other things like that.
And pretty much the crypto anarchists, in a ways, are kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one.
By the way, hold on. I just want to say this. JC Armitage posted something on Discord. The Zuckbucks or the Libra Facebook dollars. That is freaking hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious right there. Oh, kudos, JC Armitage. Kudos.
I don't think I've logged into my Facebook in months.
Well, no, it's on our. It's well. Oh, no,
yeah, I know.
No,
I'm just commenting that on the side, but yeah, I'll have a look at it.
All right.
Next point. Government should work quickly to put in place a regulatory framework for facial recognition technology. Facial recognition technology is already solving social complex problems. For example, Amazon Recognition has helped locate more than 100 missing children and identify more than 5,000 child sex traffickers. Like most technology, facial recognition is two-sided, meaning it can also be misused. We provide guidance to all our customers, including law enforcement customers, on the technology's proper use and have an clear, acceptable use policy. However, we think that government should act to regulate the use of this technology to ensure it is appropriately, and we have proposed guidelines for an appropriate U.S. national legislative framework that protects individual civil rights and ensures that governments are transparent in the application of this technology.
Wait a minute. When has government ever cared about sex trafficking? And when have they ever cared about children that have gone missing?
When have they ever cared about the privacy and civil rights of people?
Yeah,
Hello?
never.
Yeah, I mean, I know that kind of like the FBI wiretapping civil rights activists, as well as the neoconservatives setting up the Patriot Act, which authorized the NSA's illegal surveillance program, which Edward Snowden revealed.
Mm-hmm.
And
how many
of
people
course,
were ever
others.
involved in that? Were ever prosecuted? None. Last I checked.
None. In fact, none of these people get prosecuted. Though if they ever do, they get pardoned later on. So
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting because they we understand that this is two-sided, meaning it can be misused. The thing about that, if something can be misused, it will be misused. It is not a question of if, it is a question of when. You really want the government to have a monopoly on facial recognition technology. All right, moving on. Counterfeiters should receive stronger penalties under federal law. Counterfeit is one of the few crimes specifically prohibited by the U.S. Constitution, yet bad actors are undeterred and continue to push their products through online and physical stores, harming both consumers and the retail companies who serve them. In 2018, so they're talking about counterfeit products, not just counterfeit currency.
I wouldn't be surprised if they hate Bitcoin.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
But the funny thing is that the government itself could be said to be the greatest counterfeiter of all because they print more money to pay their own bills, which then lowers the purchasing power of everyone else in America.
Let's not beat around the bush. Fiat currency is worthless.
Yeah, fiat currency is legal counterfeiting.
Yeah.
So if Amazon cares so much about counterfeiting, they ought to look at the United States government is the biggest abuser of that.
Mm-hmm.
JC Armitage asks in the live chat, counterfeiters like the Federal Reserve? Well, of course.
Absolutely.
Yes, of course. Another example where the government says this is illegal except when we do it.
Uh-huh.
Consumer data privacy should be protected under federal law. We have built privacy in our services from the ground up, and we never sell individual customer data. Many core features of the customer experience at Amazon depend on us using data responsibly and transparently. Our customer-centric approach has led us to follow privacy by design principles since our founding.
Just keeps getting worse and worse as we go along.
Exactly.
Oh
That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm. Now, admittedly, I agree. I think private corporations should care about the privacy of their customers. However, when you're advocating that government policies be put in place to ensure that happens, you're pretty much guaranteeing that the exact opposite will happen.
Oh yeah.
In a free market, if corporations are exposed for violating their users' privacy data, people are going to flee from that corporation pretty quickly and go to a different one. It's only when policies actually make it impossible to start competing corporations that people don't have a choice and have to stick with the companies regardless of whether or not they protect their privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, when these giant corporations like Amazon and Facebook and Google are all advocating that the government needs to have stricter policies, something's wrong. Which is hilarious because people on the left say that these giant corporations are walking all over Americans due to lack of regulation, yet these giant corporations are precisely the ones that are advocating for more regulation.
Oh yeah,
and they're in bed with the government. So surprise, surprise.
Yeah, exactly. Final point of the Amazon policies. Corporate tax codes should incentivize investment in the economy and job creation. Corporate tax codes in any country should incentivize investment in the economy and job creation. In addition, tax codes, particularly between countries, should be coordinated to have neither loopholes that permit artificially lower tax rates nor overlaps that cause high tax rates or redundant taxation, because these distort company behavior in ways that don't benefit consumers or the economy. We support the OECD and its work with global governments to review the international tax system and secure consensus on these points. As far as that statement goes, I'm inclined to agree. However, it's pretty hypocritical, seeing as Amazon has benefited from quite a few corporate tax breaks nationwide.
If only I could just put on the J.K. Simmons laugh right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Ironic that one of the companies that has benefited the most from corporate tax loopholes is now saying we need to fix this and have fairer tax codes. Yeah, because now they're big enough, they know they can absorb the additional taxes other companies can't. As you might expect, every single one of these shows that this is not about helping the people at large. This is about putting policies in place that make it harder to start competing corporations, and therefore ensuring that Amazon has a state-enforced monopoly into the future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not about high taxes or low taxes. It's about fair taxes. I'm reminded of people saying, not free trade, but we need fair trade. Want it to be fair. You try to make it fair, it's basically not fair for the majority.
Exactly.
Especially people who struggle. So there you go.
All right, well, there you have it, folks. Amazon's Our Positions paper.
Not only are they very supportive of having government trying to find out who you're having sex with, they're also a bunch of economic ignoramuses.
Oh, no. I don't really believe that. I think Bezos, as someone who started his business in a garage with a wood-burning stove, I think Bezos understands economics, but he just doesn't care. He wants to benefit. He, of course, wants to use force to benefit himself at the expense of others.
Well, he's not huge ignoramus like Bernie Sanders, though.
Yeah, probably not.
But still, he's pretty bad.
Oh, yeah.
I like this. Invisible Hand says fair and common sense are the two most abused terms in political lingo. I'm not sure if they're the most, but they're definitely up there.
When it comes to common sense, I'm always hearing people go, "We need common sense gun laws. We need common sense tax reform. We need common sense criminal justice reform." And I'm like, screw all the reforms. Just decriminalize. Stop trying to steal our money. Please just
stop using our money for things we don't believe in,
and stop using money for like a jet that doesn't work.
Exactly.
Generally, if you have to say it's common sense, it's not. If it were common sense, everyone would already know it, and you wouldn't have to say it.
I mean, I would totally put up the meme of Mandy Patinkin in The Princess Bride, where it's like you keep using that term over and over again, like it means something. But I don't think you know what it means.
You'll keep saying that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Anything? What else is going on? People would like to discuss.
Trying to think of other topics. I'm trying to save a few for future episodes that are coming up.
Well, I'm going to just quick thank you to everyone who voted in my Twitter poll this week. With regards to all the news about Trump pulling out of Syria, which he did not. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But I posed this question in a Twitter poll. I said, suppose that Erdogan and Assad, the leaders of Turkey and Syria respectively, as well as their forces, were to pop out of existence at this very moment. Do you believe that the Kurds would proceed to build a free society that respects the rights of all? I had 8% responded yes, 92% responded no. I am inclined to agree with that 92%, but if anyone disagrees, you are free to explain why.
Absolutely not.
No, I voted no, honestly.
Yes, which raises an important point. Everyone who says Donald Trump should not be pulling our troops out of Syria, the Kurds are freedom-loving, democratic people that need our support, and if you leave, you're going to allow them to be slaughtered by Erdogan. You should not abandon them like this. How many of these people are prepared to make a case that if the Kurds were in control of Syria, they would actually build a free... democracy is not freedom, but for the sake of argument, I'm just going to ignore that point for the minute.
State.
since all these statists say that democracy is freedom, assuming it were, who even believes they would build a free democratic society as you see it? United States 2.0. Would the Kurds build the United States 2.0, assuming that Erdogan and Assad disappeared? I found no one who has been willing to make a compelling argument as such. That being said, in all these Middle Eastern conflicts, be it Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, what have you, we see that when the United States rolls in and gets rid of an oppressive, evil dictator, within 5 years, an even worse oppressive, evil dictator has taken over. So, as bad as I feel for many of the innocent people in these countries, why are we wasting hundreds of billions of American tax dollars and American lives to get rid of bad people who will be replaced by worse people in 5 years?
Well, the problem with this whole thing is there's always an excuse for not wanting to leave. That's basically this whole, you're going to abandon the Kurds. They're just trying to come up with an excuse as to why we should not pull out. There's always an excuse. Just
and
like
incidentally, the U.S. troops were not withdrawn from Syria. They were basically moved from one geographic position to another to ensure that when Turkey attacked, no U.S. troops would be killed.
Yeah, I knew from the very beginning.
They are still in Syria.
Yeah, I knew from the get-go that this was not. We're not leaving Syria. You're just moving this many number of troops. I believe it was 50 troops to another country, pretty much.
And of course, the one thing the media will never tell you is the reason is because none of these conflicts are actually about freedom and democracy. They're about strategic control of oil reserves and propping up the petrodollar worldwide.
And keeping the big government we have here.
Exactly. Ensuring that appropriate amounts of money are spent outside the country as opposed to inside, so that the dollar doesn't collapse. But the question to always ask, anytime the United States invades some foreign territory or there's a war going on somewhere and the media's got a narrative about what's really going on, the question is always ask is, who stands to benefit the most? Figure that out and you'll find out who's really pulling the strings and why it's really going on. No, I'm not claiming I have the answer to who that is all the time, but that's how you go about finding out what's really going on.
Again, it kind of reminds me of 1984 and the perpetual war that was going on, and how the war was not actually meant to be won. It was just meant to exhaust resources and keep the people poor and in kind of a slum-like state. And that's what this is really reminding me of.
Well, war does not benefit the economy, nor can it. It's a waste of resources, and destruction does not grow the economy. You have to rebuild everything that's destroyed afterwards. And go back as far as Sun Tzu when he wrote The Art of War, some 300 BC. He states in The Art of War that it is in no country's interest to engage in prolonged warfare. Defeat your enemy quickly and swiftly.
And read Smedley Butler's book, War is a Racket. Read that book and you will never support another war again.
Right.
And Smedley Butler, by the way, is probably the most decorated general in the military in U.S. history. So,
yeah,
he's not very widely talked about, and I wonder why.
Right.
All right. Let's see what else we got for this stream. I'm just scrolling for those watching it in these moments of silence. I'm basically scrolling through my Twitter feed and coming up with everything that crossed my mind this previous week.
Okay.
Oh, and Kapotaku said in the live chat, AOC is also pretending to support the abolition of the prison system. Well, of course.
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah, they are always talking about that, but they always go in there and then they vote to fund it. Yeah. If you hear
standard.
Oh yeah, there's if you hear anybody running for office saying I support the abolition of the prison system or ICE or this department or that department, don't believe that. Don't believe it. Just don't.
Right.
Because chances are they're going to go in there and they're going to vote to fund it.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. Compare what politicians say to their voting record or what they do in their private lives, and you'll learn very quickly that there is no such thing as an honest politician.
Well, their rhetoric is just telling the public how they want them to think of them. How they vote is where they truly stand deep inside.
Right. Here's something great about AOC that popped up. AOC has declared recently she's bittersweet. Her hopes of being a mother have been crushed by climate change.
Oh, God.
Good. I don't want you to have kids and have another one of you rolling around.
Yes.
Or jumping around, walking around. Jeez.
I oppose eugenics, but nonetheless, AOC, if you want to voluntarily not have kids, please.
By all means.
Yeah.
And I do know, I'm seeing quite a bit of people from the left saying I'm not going to have kids because I'm concerned about climate change. And I'm like, well, good. I'm not going to have another stupid one of you running around.
Yeah.
Which means
thank you for depriving the earth of idiots. Thank you all.
Which means we have a very good chance of having more libertarians and ANCAPs and agorists walking around.
In the future, hopefully.
Oh, yes, definitely. Which means we'll have more smarter people walking around.
Uh-huh.
JC Armitage says, well, there's mini AOC. Does that count? Nah, she can reproduce when she grows up.
Absolutely.
We need more people with her sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad she's back.
Cody Ferret says, what do you and the others think of Liberland?
In Norway?
I'm not sure what he means.
I'm not actually sure what you're talking about. Could you explain further?
Yeah. Oh, earlier he... Go ahead.
Well, I think Liberland is in Norway, isn't it? It's that patch of land in Norway that they're trying to build an ANCAP state or an ANCAP society on. It's a good startup. It's a good way to start something, but it's not very big.
El Beto says, thoughts on Generation Z being more conservative than millennials? To be honest, that's not something I've looked into very hard. I've read a few articles that suggest that might be the case. And if so, great. But I guess I don't know what kind of research has been done to support that Generation Z actually is turning out to be smart. Well, let's put it this way. The millennial generation is pretty darn stupid. So if Generation Z turns out to be smarter, that's great, but it won't be that impressive.
Yeah.
May I just mention that Cody Furret actually says that he identifies as an anarcho-memenist.
Memenist? Oh,
he's
nice.
He's an anarchist who loves memes.
Nice.
I'll go ahead and put that one on the screen.
I guess you just founded your own philosophy.
It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. JC Armitage says Gen Z needs to take the black and yellow pill. I agree.
Yes, same.
I believe, at least so far as it goes, I think identifying as conservative is a step in the right direction, as opposed to identifying as a leftist or a liberal. But yeah, it's not an end goal by any means.
Uh-huh.
I called myself a conservative before I became a libertarian.
Same.
Well, I was usually those kinds of conservatives who are for smaller government are what's known as the paleo conservatives.
Mm-hmm. I found small government conservative. They always talked about the libertarian to some people suggested there's a libertarian to alt-right pipeline, which I think is garbage. What I think it was is there was kind of the small government conservative. There was a fork in the road. Small government conservatives, once they if they actually start to study issues, get more involved in politics, study philosophy, and actually want to take detailed political positions, they either become libertarians or they become alt-right. But it's kind of the small government conservatives are generally the people who have political leanings but aren't necessarily very well read or very involved in the issues.
Right.
Exactly.
And when they do, they either become ultra statists or they become anarchists. Because those are fundamentally, those are the two positions. You either support government or you don't.
Exactly.
Right.
As Larkin Rose says, all governments are socialist.
It is true.
I'll have to get going real soon because I have a show starting in about 15 minutes. And my show will be a special on anarcho-primitivism. So, sure.
When this is over,
Yes.
everyone head over to Nate's channel and check that out. Actually, we've already been streaming for 45 minutes. This was a good discussion.
Yeah, it was.
I guess we can go ahead and finish up with something a little more lighthearted, like we always tend to do. Anyone have anything non-political current events that they want to discuss?
I'm looking forward to Ozzy Osbourne's upcoming album.
Okay.
Oh, he's got a new one coming out. Nice.
Yeah, he had a collab with Post Malone that just got released shortly after my birthday, by the way. And
nice.
yeah, it was a very nice birthday gift, so thank you, Ozzy. So he managed to record his album shortly after he did the collab. And it actually helped him get almost fully recovered from his injuries and from his illness. And can't wait to see him back on touring again.
Yeah. Nice.
Nate, Volnos made a comment about your upcoming stream.
I don't know what that means, but
I think he's implying that if you're an anarcho-primitivist, you should not be using modern technology.
I am not a primitivist. I don't believe in their manifesto. So I'm just a total complete voluntarist.
I technically agree with anarcho-transhumanism, so I literally need to get like a chip in my head that actually broadcasts the stream like directly into my brain so I can like interact with it with my brain power. Ugh. Okay. Whenever that comes out.
Yeah, so it looks like, so before you end it, I think we should give a shout out to Cody Fred for starting a brand new branch of anarchism called anarcho-memeism.
Anarcho-memeism, do not tread on my memes. Supporting the free spreading of memes everywhere.
Don't let your memes be dreams.
Yeah, you ought to. So, Cody, you ought to create some form of flag. You know, it's got to be. It's black. However, what is the color going to be? So there you go.
Black and then Pepe the Frog or something.
I don't know. Well, anyways.
All right. Here is a tweet. 2 hours ago, Twitter user CJ Pearson tweeted out the question, "What Bible verse has had the greatest impact on your life?" I tweeted back, Judges 3:16 through 23. Now, has that had the greatest impact? Depends on what you mean by impact, but it is one of my favorite verses in the Bible, so here it is. Ehud made himself a sword which had 2 edges, a cubit in length, and he bound it on his right thigh under his cloak. He presented the tribute to Eglon, king of Moab. Now, Eglon was a very fat man. It came about that when he had finished presenting the tribute, that they sent away the people who had carried the tribute. But he himself turned back from the idols which were at Gilgal and said to the king, "I have a secret message from you." And he said, "Keep silence." And all who attended left him. So Ehud came to him while he was sitting alone in the cool roof of his chamber. Ehud said, "I have a message from you from God." And he arose from his seat. Ehud stretched out his left hand, took the sword from his right thigh, and thrust it into the king's belly. The handle went also in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade, so that the sword could not be withdrawn from the belly. And so Ehud went out, and the king died.
Damn. Here's what I think of your fat privileged king.
Exactly. Since I was a kid, now that was one of my favorite passages from the Bible. That I've always said they need to make a Netflix series called The Book of Judges.
That would be kind of funny, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I could just see that.
I would like to see some better. I would like to see a remake of the Bible series and AD The Bible Continues, because I didn't think those were really good.
No, I thought the Bible series. I thought they did a reasonable effort to do some of the books of the Bible as far as like the battles and whatnot, but it was too quick. There wasn't enough focus on in any particular story, which is why I say either make a series about the Book of Judges, make a series about David's mighty men. Both of those would be awesome.
And in case anybody is wondering, since I am a Christian myself, Bible verse that's actually had the most impact on me is Revelation 19:11 through 21.
Say it again. Revelation
19:11 through 21 is the passage about the rider on the white horse.
And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and wages war.
His eyes are like blazing fire, and on his head are many crowns. He has a name written on him that no one knows but he himself. He is dressed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is the Word of God. The armies of heaven were following him, riding on white horses, and dressed in fine linen, white and clean. Out of his mouth comes a sharp sword, which to strike down the nations. He will rule them with an iron scepter. He treads the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God Almighty. On his robe and on his thigh he has his name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, who cried out in a loud voice to all the birds flying in midair, come, gather together for the great supper of God, so that you may eat the flesh of kings, generals, and mighty men, of horses and their riders, and the flesh of all people, free and slave, small and great. Then I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against the rider on the horse and his army. But the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet who had performed the miraculous signs on his behalf. With these signs he had deluded those who had received the mark of the beast and worshipped his image. The two of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur. The rest of them were killed with the sword that came out of the mouth of the rider on the horse, and all the birds gorged themselves on their flesh. There we go.
All right.
What version were you reading?
New American Standard.
I was reading NIV.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess on a serious note, since my judge's passage was more of a hardcore, not impact, I'll just say, since Nate turned it to a serious note, my favorite passage in the Bible, or probably one that has had the most impact, I'm going to say 2 Timothy 4, 3 through 4. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but wanting to have their ears tickled, they will accumulate for themselves teachers in accordance to their own desires, and will turn away their ears from the truth and turn aside to myths. But you, be sober in all things, endure hardship, do the work of an evangelist, fulfill your ministry. Now, whether you're a Christian or not, or whether you care at all what the rest of the Bible has to say, I think you can agree that there are no shortage of people who will listen to people who tell them what they want to hear. And I think that is what Paul is talking about there, basically pointing out that people will always capitulate to people who tell them what they want to hear, whether it's true or not. So,
and I also like 1 Samuel chapters 8 through 21, though I'm not going to read all of that because we don't have time.
Yeah, quite a bit.
And I myself have been atheist. It has been literally like 7 years since I've read the Bible at all. But I do remember the Bible verse that did have the most impact on me back when I was a Christian was Psalms 27:3. And it goes like, though an army besiegeth me, my heart will not fear. Though war breaks out against me, even then I will be confident.
Psalm 27. I believe that is a Psalm of David.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. A Psalm of fearless trust in God, a Psalm of David. Which, incidentally, David is definitely one of my favorite Old Testament figures. So,
Oh, cool.
like I said, they ought to make a Netflix series about David and his mighty men.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, anyways, I got to get going. I don't have
All right,
much
that's
time,
probably a good,
so.
interesting. I guess I didn't expect that to be the last topic of conversation, but hey, it was a good one.
Neither
So,
did I.
Yep.
So.
all right, well, thanks
right.
everybody for joining in for this stream. Again, if you thanks everybody for watching and for all those for you guys who continuing supporting my channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate and love you so much for it. If anyone else would like to get in on these conversations or just support the channel, links to my Subscribestar, Patreon, and Bitbacker are in the description. So, as always, that is my 2 cents. So, take it for what it's worth.